Hi, I'm Tinny from Mini Bowl Design, and today I'm going to discuss stove design for ultralight backpacking. Now, when you go to design an alcohol stove for backpacking, there's some things you really have to take into consideration. You have to take into consideration where the stove's going to be used, and you always have to take into consideration worst case scenario. So when you go to design them, it goes without saying that they have to be very rugged, bulletproof, so they can be tossed around in a pack and survive. That's been one of my big problems in my mind with the soda can stoves, because they're not that durable. And I tell people to carry them in a cup, but you know, they aren't real durable because they're made out of very thin sheet metal. Okay, now when you go to design a stove from aluminum stock, you think, well, you're building it out of solid aluminum, that, you know, it's going to be pretty durable. Well, it could be, but there's some things that would render it completely useless backpacking. Now, if, for example, you put legs on it, and the legs weren't made out of solid stock, so if they bent, you could bend them back. Say they were made out of a piece of aluminum that was hollow. Well, if you've got hollow aluminum legs, they're going to snap off, and it's going to render it useless. Second thing is what holds it together. Mine are all held together with interrupt fit in the silicone. It's very effective, it's extremely durable, and it's easily replaced. Now, if instead of doing that, I decided to put them together with, say I had them screw together. Well, any machinist will tell you, anytime you're working with threads, you're creating a situation that would be easily damaged. Threads are very easily damaged, especially if you're in a hurry. If you cross-thread a thread, that can be the kiss of death. It would have to go back into a lathe and be traced out, or if you had to dye the right size, tap or dye the right size, you'd have to trace it out. But you're not going to do that out on the trail. So having a stove that screws together with threads just wouldn't be a good idea, because it would be easily damaged and rendered useless. And if it was a type of thread that was extremely coarse, like an Acme flat top thread, it would probably be okay. On the other hand, if it was a standard thread and was a fine thread, a high count per inch in aluminum, that would be the kiss of death, because it would be so easy to damage. And once you damage it, the stove would be rendered useless. So you absolutely would not want to use threads in an aluminum stove. It's just common sense, and I think you can see my point there. Anybody that's ever cross-threaded anything, including the lid on a peanut butter jar, knows threads it's not a good idea. Now, you also, when it comes to the priming part of them, if anytime you've got to prime a stove, you're wasting alcohol, because the prime is going just to heat the stove. So if you make a stove that you have to prime, it's going to be much less efficient than a stove that just lights, like a wick stove. If it's a stove that you have to prime, like a soda can stove, that you have to use some of your fuel to preheat it, that's just wasted heat. Now, if your stove was, this brings up another point. If it is a stove that has to be preheated and has to maintain its pressure from its own heat with a heat loop situation, the thinner and the lighter it is, the better, and the more conductive the material is made out of, the better. So if you made a stove that was made out of, say, 1/8 inch thick aluminum and had to be primed, that means that prime has got to heat all that aluminum up, the whole body, your pot stand, everything that touches the pot and touches the stove is going to have to be heated to 212 at least, for everything to work correctly. So making a stove out of thick aluminum and then having to prime it to get it to blossom, and that'd just be a bad idea. Once you get up in anything any thicker than 10 thousandths, you pretty much lose that, and it would be hard to prime. You might have to prime it 4 or 5 times to get it going, and that's just wasted fuel. So those are all considerations to take into account when building a stove. My stoves don't have any legs that can just bust off because they're hollow. Don't have any threads that can bugger up. The ones that I'm talking about that are made out of aluminum stock, billet stock, are all held together with silicone, so there's no threads. They're extremely durable. They're wick, so there's no priming. And as a plus, they're controllable. You can control the heat up or down. And you can fuel them while you're cooking, so you don't have to, if you run out of, you don't have to run out of fuel and let them cool down, so you can pick them up and then refuel them and then go through the priming process to get them going again. So that's all design things you should take into account. And I think that's one reason why my stoves have been so popular. They meet all that criteria. So I'm Tinny from Mini Bull Design. Get out and hike, take a friend, enjoy the great outdoors, and more important than anything, be nice, leave no trace, and have a really great day. Bye-bye.